Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
Bam, James. It's Thursday night. Gridiron Grinder time. Doing it a little bit early this week. This is episode 101 of Gridiron Grinder. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, my buddy James. Tonight, we're going to be kicking things off with Name That Stadium. Then, we're going to hit our recap of the news from this past week. After that, we're going to take a look at Central Michigan players in the NFL. And last but not least, we'll close things off with question of the week. And so, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
Good, man. You know me, man. I'm pumped to be talking about some of my homies from Central. And so we had a lot of them get added to the list this year, which is nice. And so, just seemed like a good time to hit that segment. Okay, so before we get to our recap of this past week, let's do Name That Stadium, James. And so, for anybody who's watching. This is a part of the show where you can see James is out there traveling the country. Every week he's got a new stadium in his background. Basically, we're just asking if you think you know what stadium that is, hit us up in our comments section. First person to get the right answer gets a special shout out next week's show. James, where were you at last week, man?
Last week I was in Vegas. I kind of felt like Vegas, when you look at with what we were doing last week, top 10 position, Vegas is really underlooked at the wide receiver or at the for fantasy football. And as I was going through it, it kept seeming like, okay, this guy's from Vegas, this guy plays for the Raiders. And I was just like, yeah, fuck it, I'll just go to Vegas this week.
Nice. Yeah, no, I was telling you that after we did our super early records predictions, I kind of went back and looked more at the roster and did my typical adjustments with some of the stuff, and I felt like it's actually like a lot stronger of a roster than what I was originally giving it credit for. Um, but I don't know, we'll see. I mean, I'm still not like a crazy fan of McDaniels, and so, but they got some talent, man. So they definitely can do something. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, hey, we didn't get any takers for Name That Stadium, even though it was Vegas, but we got a comment about our 100th episode, which was nice. And so at least there's people out there that are, they're paying a little bit of attention.
Yeah, somewhere sometimes.
Okay, cool. Well, let's move it over. Let's do our recap of the past week. And so, James, the first thing I got, probably the biggest news of the past week, was safety Minka Fitzpatrick signing a 4-year extension with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's worth $73.6 million with $36 million guaranteed. The dude's solid, no doubt about it. He's made comments that he believes he's one of the best. And, of course, like everybody's already talking about, who's going to be the next guy to break it now that he's like setting that new mark. And, these salaries just keep going higher and higher and higher. And, but I mean, the guy is, I mean, I would say Watt is the best guy on their defense, but he's pretty darn close. They're both pretty freaking solid for that squad, man.
Yeah, it was funny. I think I still agree with it. Like when Miami traded Pittsburgh or traded Minka to Pittsburgh, like one of the sports talk radio shows I listened to talked about how Miami will win a playoff game before Pittsburgh does after the trade.
Okay.
And it's like, yeah, Pittsburgh's made the playoffs, but they haven't done shit. And like the trade didn't make sense. It didn't really make sense, Pittsburgh trading for Minka Fitzpatrick, because they really had to break the team down, and they're still fighting breaking the team down. So I don't know if this was a smart signing by Pittsburgh to sign him to an extension and lock him in for that much money when they really have to rebuild a good amount.
Yeah, I mean, but you got to remember they're now on a rookie quarterback pay, like the pay for a rookie quarterback, which I think part of that starts the reset. And so if you can hang on to some of these pieces, I don't know. I hear what you're saying, and I think if Roethlisberger was still there, it would have been a concern because it's like, oh man, there's just not enough money to go around. But I think some of that salary stuff's going to be getting cleaned up now that they're on like that rookie quarterback pay, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but And I think he will be at least a serviceable. I think he'll be eventually be a good quarterback in the league. But it's assuming that Pickens pans out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's got 4 or 5 years to make it worthwhile, and then they got to pay him or they got to find somebody else. So, if not sooner. Okay, so keeping it moving here, I saw with Cleveland they hired Catherine. I'm sure I'll butcher the name, but Roche, however you say that, as the assistant GM and vice president for the team, which now makes her the highest ranking female in a football executive position. And so, that hit the news. It was a pretty big thing for the moment when it came out. And hey, man, good for her. That's nice.
Is that is that currently in that position? Because I swear the Raiders had somebody years ago. Trying to
It,
remember
it,
who
it
it
might be
was.
it might be currently, but it was just saying, oh, she's now the highest ranking executive.
Yeah, I think it's because what is her name?
VP's pretty high for these teams.
Yeah, no, this person was gosh, what was her name?
Well, you look at it. While you're looking, I'll kind of keep moving us along here until you're ready to go back. The next one I had, a little bit of a puffy thing, but the Saints have added a new helmet for this year. They're going to have a black helmet. Not sure how many games, but they're saying at least one game will be played with their black helmet. It sounds like other teams are going to be expected to follow suit with some alternate helmet designs. And some of this is because the league opened up some rules. James, I guess there was a one shell rule with the helmets, which has been eliminated, which I guess has given teams the ability to like sort of redesign some things. And so the Saints are the first team to do it, but they're expecting more dominoes to fall.
Those helmets are terrible. You know, back to it was Amy Trask. She was the chief executive of the Raiders.
Okay.
And so, anyways, but I knew somebody was up there. But anyways, those helmets are trash. I absolutely hate them. The Saints need to be gold helmets, black Florida what's the word? Fleur de
Fleur de
lis?
lis.
Yeah, Fleur de lis. Um, not this black and gold. And I sure as fucking hell hope they don't wear those goddamn helmets with the all black uniforms. That's
Well,
just fucking ridiculous.
that's what I thought when I saw it. I was like, yeah, but I kind of thought, let me see the full uniform, and then I'll be able to have a better sort of opinion on it. Because the helmet alone, without the rest of the uniform, it's hard to tell sometimes. But I hear you. It's like back in the day, teams liked if they could get anything black because it was just supposed to be like more intimidating. And then it was like the Dolphins were the opposite. They were like, well, we're wearing white at home, even though other teams typically want to wear their darker colors at home. But for
Hmm.
them, it was a heat thing, and so it was an advantage. And it was like, oh man, like be smart about it. Don't don't be stupid about it. But hey, every team's got their own motivation for stuff.
Yeah, just the Saints helmets look ridiculous. I
Uh,
hate them. Get rid of them. Don't wear them ever again.
yeah. Hey, you screwed up. Yeah. Try again next time.
Yeah.
All right. So going back to the Raiders, James, because yeah, you mentioned them a couple times. So I did see they did a $1 million donation to the Uvalde, however you say it, school district where that school shooting was a couple weeks ago. And it's intended to be spent on security purposes, which I thought was really nice. It was a generous move on their part, and it's cool to see a team step up and try and help in the community in some way. And $1 million for an NFL team. Some people might be like, they could have done more, but $1 million's a pretty significant amount of money, man. So I'm happy to see somebody doing something like that.
It is a pretty significant amount of money, and also like by all accounts I've ever read, the Raiders are the poorest NFL team.
Oh, gotcha. I didn't even know that.
Like,
I
yeah,
would have
like
I would have thought with them moving to Vegas they had some dough, but maybe I don't know, maybe not.
I mean, it might have changed recently, but
Well, maybe now that they're in Vegas,
yeah,
things are turning around for them. Who knows?
possibly. But I had read that they were, or all right. So here it is: 10 poorest owners in the NFL. If it opens up, then I can read it. Yeah, it's Mark Davis of the Raiders.
Okay.
Mark Davis's net worth is estimated at 500 million.
Hmm. Man,
Um,
when you just hear about these teams being in the billions, but I guess it doesn't necessarily mean that the owners in the billions because some of these teams have however many owners. But I
yeah,
got you.
this number two is Mike Brown of the Bengals at 925 million. Oh, I thought some of these, like Art Rooney, then McCaskey, the owner of the Bears, then the owner of the the Vikings.
I heard something with Rooney and their family had some kind of, I don't know all the details, and maybe one day we'll go digging for it, but there was something about like an estate tax issue that ended up really hurting their family and the way that they were able to own that team. And I don't know, something just in the back of my mind. I remember hearing that in the news years ago, and might be something to go digging into to find out what happened with them. Um, but yeah, hey, it's interesting. It's not always what you think it is.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about the Rooneys is like the Rooney family and the Mara family are like all intermingled.
Okay.
Because one of the children in the Mara family is married to one of the children in the Rooney family, and like they have like the two actresses, shit, Kate Mara and Rooney Mara.
Okay. Just some big time powerhouse families merging.
Yeah. Well, shit. I was reading up on on Cronky a little bit of the Rams, and so Cronky is married to one of the heirs of Walmart.
Yeah, you were
His,
talking a little bit about the Walmart guys last week and how they're
yeah,
connected to now
because like
Denver and yeah.
Denver, but you want to talk even more connection. His Cronky's wife owns the Colorado Avalanche and the Denver Nuggets,
Okay. Wow,
and
they got their hands on a lot of sports teams.
Cronky owns the arena. I forget the name of the ball center that they play in, and like a bunch of other non four major sports teams in Denver. So like they're Cronky's fucking rich as shit. But yeah, so it's you got them, and then Walton, the other brother that founded Walmart's son or daughter is in on the deal for, or granddaughter, sorry, is in on the deal for buying the Broncos, and it's like, man, they just need to stop charging $50 for a beer at a game.
Uh yeah, hey, they got some big money, man. They got some big money. All right. So that's all I had news wise. What else is going on out there that you want to add to the pile here, James?
So, and this I haven't decided how this affects my thoughts on them, but Colts safety retired.
Oh
Like
yeah, I heard
seriously,
something
like
about the guy. He was
Khalil.
pursuing like a ministry career or
Ministry,
something like
yeah.
that.
What the hell was his name? I'm looking for it now. It's Khalil something.
Willis.
Ellis Willis.
Willis.
Yes. Yeah, he retired. Kari, not Khalil. Kari Willis retired.
Yeah, and just a couple years in the league too, right?
Yeah, he's going into his fourth year.
Okay. Hmm.
I mean, and he was starting safety on that defense too. So which is
Yeah, and I want to say, didn't they just bring in a safety in this offseason?
did they?
I'm pretty sure the Colts brought in a guy. I'm trying to remember who it was. Um, I'll Google it real quick.
Let's see if my
Yeah, he abruptly retired. Yeah, so he's like at the top of all the news, but I thought they had a trade or something to bring in a different safety. Or, well, I guess they drafted Nick Cross. Maybe that's what I was thinking.
yeah,
Uh,
they drafted Nick Cross. Currently on their depth chart, they have Trevor Denbo, Julian Blackman, Maury Watts, and Rodney McLeod.
yeah, yeah, no, I guess that could hurt him. That could definitely hurt him. Huh.
They signed.
Uh,
You're thinking. I know what you're thinking of now. Looking at their depth chart, they signed Gilmore.
yeah, that was it. But yeah, he's cornerback, not safety.
Yeah,
I got you. All right, so yeah, what else you got news wise?
I think there was one other thing. This whole apparently, um, Tyreek Hill threw a lot of shade on Patrick Mahomes' accuracy.
Oh, wow.
Uh, I'm looking for the quote, but it was like, I forgot
So what's
to
he
mute the
saying?
tab.
Two is more accurate? Because I don't know, man. I mean, he could be getting better, but we talk a lot about how he throws an ugly football.
Yeah, I'm looking for the quote real quick.
Okay.
Blah blah blah. I can't find
Hey, that's all
it.
right. If you get it, let me know. If not, we'll move on and we can always pause and talk about it when you're ready.
Yeah, but anyways, he said he basically said that Tua is like 1,000 times more accurate
Oh,
um
jeez.
than than Mahomes. I don't care about
Well,
the exit. Where the
well,
fuck?
there's your fantasy quarterback then. Go and get Tua. Get him early. Him and Cheetah.
Yeah, it's just yeah. No, I'm not finding it. It's just
That's
and then
okay.
Mahomes is like, oh, I'm surprised he said that. And it's like, you know what? It's no surprise that he said that because of the simple fact that he plays for Miami, he plays with Tua, he's got to build that up,
Yeah, he's got to
and
back the guy.
he's got to back that guy. And it was on some random podcast. It was on it. It needed to be said.
Okay. Yeah, these guys are always doing things to pump up their teammates, even when you know it's garbage. And this one, it's until we see Tua show that kind of accuracy, it's like it's hard to believe it. But Tua's young. He's getting better every year, and so maybe this is going to be a big breakout year for him. We don't know yet.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm,
Yeah, it's
I'm,
he's got to show us. He's won some games, but he's won them in such ugly fashion.
yeah, and then on the Lamar trade front, it's definitely going to happen now.
The trade,
Yeah, Lamar
I
Jackson's
heard that
going to
they
be
were
traded.
working on
Definitely
contract
going to be traded.
negotiations finally.
He's definitely going to be traded because he came out and said he wants to be a Raven for life, which is code for I don't want to upset this fan base, but I want out.
Huh. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens, I guess. But I would expect that they're going to sign him. It's just, what is it? He's representing himself, which complicates it.
Yeah, he's definitely out. He's being traded.
Well, they'll have to do like a three-way trade, you know? Send him to Carolina, send Jimmy G to Baltimore, and send frickin' like McCaffrey to San Francisco or something. I don't know, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And the absolute last one was Derwin James.
Okay, what's going on with him?
It was revealed on Tuesday this week that he had shoulder surgery at the end of the season.
I didn't know about that, but man, that guy's had a lot of injuries since he's gotten into the league.
Yeah, like there's the whole situation behind the surgery, stuff like that is completely unknown. Like he did in September, he separated his shoulder and missed like seven or eight snaps, but it didn't seem to be that serious. And he had shoulder surgery at the end of the season, and it's like, huh.
Okay.
It just caught me off guard, which worries me because if he's going to have all these injuries, it's just like,
Yeah, it's tough, man. When he plays, he's good, but he's hard to rely
yeah, he's very hard to rely on. Like, I mean, he's missed what was he missed like 2 seasons of his four?
on. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. All right, dude. I need you to give me a mic check. I'm getting a lot of interference.
On my end or your end?
I can't tell, but I
How
guess
about now?
that's a lot better.
All right, I had a fan on. I guess it was just hitting the.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that was doing it. Well, hopefully you don't overheat here, James. Um, all right. Are you ready to move on?
Yeah, I'm ready to move on. That was just the thing that I kept forgetting. I knew there was something that I wanted to definitely hit, but
Gotcha.
couldn't.
Yeah, no, that's one to keep an eye on, man, especially with the way they've sort of retooled that defense this year.
Mhm.
If they can keep all those guys healthy, man, that could be a wildly dangerous team.
It already is a wildly dangerous team.
Well, I know, but the defense held them back last year.
No, the coach held them back last year. Let's be honest.
I mean, the coach made some mistakes when it counted, but the defense definitely held them back. And adding Khalil Mack, they did a lot of good things in the offseason. But
True.
all right, well, yeah, let's move it on here. So tonight we're talking about Central Michigan players in the NFL. James, we're doing this segment for a number of reasons. Obviously, I went to Central. I'm a diehard CMU fan. Both of us love football big time. And, I guess beyond that, CMU, they pumped out some guys over the years, some of them pretty good. And it's always a good thing to highlight some of these small school guys in the league, wherever they come from. And, we've got a little bit of a connection with this one. And so it's nice to pat him on the back a little bit. And so I thought before we get to the current crop of guys, I'd start by covering some of the guys of sort of like the past decade that were notable in the league. And the first guy, which I mean everybody knows, is Antonio Brown. I mean, he's the biggest name of them all coming out of Central. Drafted in the sixth round, 2010 by the Steelers, 195th overall, late pick. The dude turned into a seven-time Pro Bowler and a four-time All-Pro. He led the league in receiving yards twice, led the league in receptions twice, and touchdowns once. You know, not too shabby for a six-round pick. Unfortunately, he lost his freaking mind, as you know, James, and he's basically out of the league at this point because of his own stupidity, which he's even saying that he doesn't think a team will sign him now. But he did play in 7 games for the Bucks last year, and so maybe there's a chance his career's not quite over yet. But you know,
Yeah.
he was starting to get there, man, and it just he became his own worst enemy.
Yeah, so I would say he would have a chance to play in the league again if he didn't not strip naked, take off his pads and walk off the field in the middle of the fucking game.
Yeah, that was really stupid, and that's kind of like I don't know how you term it, but maybe like the nail in the coffin or something. But um, and I mean he had the year a couple years ago where he was with the Patriots and like basically I don't even know. No, I'm thinking the Raiders where he had the thing with his feet and it just and then they were forced to trade him and it was like everybody was pumped up to see him with the Raiders and then he just like totally man, the guy wigged out, man. It sucks because he was like freaking rock solid for so long. You're
Sorry, I'm
laughing.
laughing hysterically at it because
Oh,
you mentioned the Raiders, and so he found out that his helmet wasn't available to be used anymore. So he did a shitty ass paint job of his
oh
old
yeah,
Steelers helmet to
yep.
try to make it a Raiders helmet to practice in. But yeah, then he basically he went off the deep end with the Raiders and then ended up on the Patriots who cut him like
Yep.
2 days after they signed him because like all sorts of shit came out about him
Yeah, he
and
played
then
like 1 or 2 games or something and had a couple catches from Brady and then that
did
was kind of why Brady wanted to bring him to Tampa Bay and it was the same thing. Like he had some moments in Tampa Bay like when they made that Super Bowl run, he actually had some impact there. And then the dude just lost his fucking mind again, man. It sucks.
did he play in any 8 games for New England? Like I seriously don't remember that. I just remember it in the practice.
I'm pretty sure he played in at least 1 game because I'm almost confident I remember he had a couple catches and it was like, oh man, here we go, him and Brady, and then he wigged out like right after that. It was short lived. But yeah, you're checking it.
Okay, so he was signed the same day he was released from from the Raiders. Okay. So he was signed on September 7th and then released before week 2. So he played in 1 game for the Patriots and had 4 receptions.
Uh, I'm showing he had, and this is I don't know if this is a reputable site here. Statmuse.com is saying he had 43 catches for 513 yards and 4 TDs in 7 games while he was with the Patriots.
Not even close.
Yeah, that seems high from what I vaguely remember. Let me see if I
Well,
can find another start.
was released before week 2. So there's no way he played in that many games for the Patriots. He was signed on September 7th, 2019, and he was released on he made his
Ah,
debut in week 2. On September 20th, he was released.
I'm trying to find. Oh my gosh, it's such a mess. Yeah, I mean, hey, the dude lost his mind.
And then on September 22nd, he retired from football
Yeah, yeah.
and
So
changed his mind 4 days later
yeah, no, it was wild, but
and then
one
retired
heck of
again.
one heck of a run. He definitely helped put Central on the map, and so I thought it'd be good to start with him. But I'll flip it to the other side of the spectrum in the positive way, which was left tackle Joe Staley. And so he doesn't get nearly the amount of attention as Antonio Brown does, but he had I would say, close to, equally impressive NFL career. And so Joe Staley was drafted in the first round back in 2007 by the 49ers.
Was he a high
he was
pick?
he was picked 28th overall. And nobody expected that when he came out of Central. I mean, everybody was like, "Oh my God, who is this guy?" And he turned out to be a six-time Pro Bowler. He played through the 2019 season, and towards the end of his career, he had some injury things pop up. But I mean, this guy was about as steady as they get at left tackle for the entire time he was with the 49ers. And he just had one heck of a run, man. I love Joe Staley. That guy did it right, man, and he was a very respectful player. So yeah, another big name guy that came out, but he was not on the map quite like Antonio Brown was.
Yeah.
You had to be a real football fan to know him because he was an offensive lineman. Okay, so then looking at some other guys, and these aren't in any particular order, but there's a few that I wanted to mention. One of them people might remember from the fantasy football standpoint, which was running back Thomas Rawls. He was actually originally a U of M running back, transferred to Central Michigan. He ended up being undrafted but signed by the Seahawks in 2015. He had a short career. He only played until I think 2018 was his last season. But when he got a chance to start in 2015, because there were some injuries on the team, he was electric. The dude averaged 5.6 yards per carry and led the league in yards per carry that season. But the problem for him was his entire 4-year career, the guy kept getting hurt. And so when he was on the field, he could get it done. He just couldn't stay on the field. And it was that 1 year, man, he turned into be like a sweet fantasy football pickup, but it was just a flash in the pan, unfortunately.
Well, not only that, he holds the Seahawks record for most rushing yards in a postseason game. I'm sorry, most yards in a postseason game, which happened against the Lions.
I'm glad you brought that up, man.
161 yards. So I mean, he had a solid season or two. Kind of bounced around after 15 through 17 it was the Seahawks and never really played much after that. Like he was on the Bengals but released. Yeah, maybe he played a little bit for them.
Yeah, he never got back to form after 15.
Yeah.
It was a bummer, but he did look great when he was playing. It just fell apart.
But that was 16. That was 2016 season that he set the record against the
playoff
Lions.
one. Well, yeah, and so 15 was the big year. 16, I think he missed a lot of the year, but he must have been healthy for that playoff run.
Yo, he fractured his leg in 16.
Okay.
In week 2, that's right.
So then, yeah, he got healthy when they needed him.
And he came back in December. Had 349 rushing yards that season, 3 touchdowns. Huh?
Yeah.
But he had 161 yards in
the one playoff game, man. That's where it's at. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot about that, but that's good that he had that record for that playoff game. Another guy, James, that he actually had a pretty decently long career, and hypothetically, he could still get a look as a free agent. Is safety Jaleel Adai. He was undrafted. Signed by the Chargers back in 2013. His career was mostly with the Chargers, but he also had a stint with the Texans and I think just one season with the Colts. But he had 4 solid seasons as a starter, 453 career tackles, 343 solo tackles. It seems like he could still get a shake here, but he's just sitting out there on the free agent market right now.
Yeah, I don't have much breakdown of him. kind
I,
of
I
I vaguely even remember him.
yeah, to be honest, I totally forgot he was even from Central until I until I did the assignment, and I was like, "Holy cow, that's right! This guy's been floating around the league for 6, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years now. Pretty
Hmm.
good little run, man."
Yeah,
Uh,
it is.
but so yeah, so I got two more guys I want to hit before we get to the current players. The next one, man, I love this guy, was linebacker Frank Zombo. He was
Hmm.
undrafted by the Packers in 2010, about as blue collar of a linebacker as you can get. This guy was just like the consummate hard worker, didn't have like that top tier physical ability, but like he was always pushing himself to the limit. He spent 3 seasons with the Packers, 6 seasons with the Chiefs, mostly a backup and special teams player, but he did start 36 games over the course of his career. And I think it just goes to show that if you're willing to do the dirty work, you can have some staying power in this league because most linebackers don't last that long if they're not starting linebackers. Because at
Hmm.
some point, you either don't want to play special teams or you're not good enough to even play special teams anymore. But Zombo did whatever they asked, man, and turned it into a nice little career.
Yeah, I mean, just a nice little career. What, 50, I'm sorry, 146 tackles, 12 and a half sacks. That's not bad for not necessarily being a starter or top tier guy. Five interceptions. I'm sorry, one interception, four pass deflects, five forced fumbles.
Yeah, and I mean, he just was a 9 year depth guy. It's
Hmm.
like who hangs out like sort of you know, below first string like that for 9 years. It's like either you're there or they flush you out, it seems like.
Yeah, and on top of that, he was he started in the Super Bowl and recorded a sack in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, man, Sambo. And I don't know, I might have told you this once or twice before, James, but one of my old coworkers was neighbors with his family. And this is an old timer, and so he talked about Frank as like a kid and stuff, and just said that the guy was like just a tremendous stand-up person, just like one of those like really legit, good ethic, hard-working guys, and so just happy to see him have a nice little 9 year run, man.
Hmm.
So my next guy, man, this guy really, we're going back a little bit further, but I'm doing it because he stayed in the league until fairly recently. Was defensive tackle Cullen Jenkins. And this was another guy undrafted, picked up by the Packers, but it was all the way back in 2003. By far and away, the most under the radar Chippewa to be in the NFL. He played through the 2016 season, James. Spent time with the Packers, the Eagles, the Giants, and Washington. Started 137 games, had 49 sacks. I mean, the dude was actually a really solid inside defensive lineman, contributing at pretty much every stop he had, man. I mean, really, it kind of blows my mind that you don't hear people talk more about him because a 13-year career like that as an interior defensive lineman, that's hard to pull off, man. Those guys take a freaking beating.
Yeah, I mean, and he kind of took a beating because and what was it? Didn't he like play like 2 games one year because he tore his pectoral muscle?
Oh man, that sounds familiar. Um, I'd have to look that up, but it's ringing a bell.
Yeah, I think that's what I remember. But I mean, he kind of tailed off towards the end. He had what, like in 2011 with the Eagles, he had five and a half sacks, 7 tackles for a loss, kind of. And then he was released.
Yeah, it bummed me out because for both him and Zombo, I kept thinking, geez, why couldn't the Lions have tried getting these guys? They're right
Hmm.
in the backyard, but
Yeah.
it happens, man. What can you do? So, all right. Well, here let's switch it over. Let's talk about the current group of guys in the NFL. And what I did with my notes, James, and we can bounce around, do it any way you want. I did it by the most tenured guy, basically. So I started with Nick Bellore. He was undrafted, signed by the Jets back in 2011, and I worked my way to the current people to enter the league. And so, that way we could talk a little bit about like the four guys that just joined this club. Maybe at the end here, I don't know if that made sense, but we can jump
Um,
around if you got your notes different, whatever works.
Makes sense. I can roll with the flow.
All right, so so linebacker Nick Bellore, another amazing linebacker to come out of Central, from Central terms anyhow. Uh, he has been in the league for over a decade, and probably nobody other than us even knows this guy's name. But his versatility has been one of the reasons he's had staying power in the league. The early part of his career was mostly with the Jets. Then he moved on, did a couple years with the 49ers, had some time with the Lions, and he was playing with the Seahawks up through last season. I believe he's still signed, and he's expected to be uh, basically he's projected to be a backup inside linebacker, but he also plays special teams. And going back to his time with the Lions, he started playing fullback. And
Hmm.
it's that versatility that's really given him the ability to keep latching onto rosters, especially, it might sound silly, but that fullback work, I think, has been crucial for him because a lot of teams don't even roll with a fullback anymore. And so if you're willing to do a little bit of linebacker play, a little bit of special teams play, oh, and you'll pinch hit at fullback, it's like you're kind of like making yourself, a little more desirable if you're not one of those starting caliber guys.
And he has a touchdown reception.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it's good to point that out. Yeah, so it's um yeah, I mean, freaking Nick Bellore, man. So I'm just really impressed with the dude's staying power.
Yeah, he had I guess he played fullback with or yeah, he's still playing fullback up there in Seattle.
Oh yeah. Um, all right, so then the next guy, there's actually quite a bit of gap between Bellore and the next guy, which is quarterback Cooper Rush.
Whoa,
And
whoa, 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 whoa. You talked about Joe Staley. You
yeah,
talked about Jello Idai, who's a free agent. You skipped Eric Fisher.
well, yeah, and I guess James, I have him all the way at the bottom of the list because I'm still listing him as a free agent. So, but all right, yeah,
Okay.
let's talk about Eric Fisher because he was a huge Central Michigan guy.
Yeah, he's
why don't you give me your rundown on him, man?
well at his peak, and like even now, he's still one of the top tier offensive tackles in the league. He played for
I mean,
Kansas
dude,
City mostly,
he
and
was
then
the number
played for the
one
Colts.
overall pick, man.
It, I was I was
Oh,
getting there,
sorry.
but yeah.
I don't mean
Um,
I don't mean to take your thunder. Keep going. Keep going.
yeah, so he was the number one overall pick. I mean, the downside to him, and probably what's really shortening his career, because he's been in the league for what, like 9 years. He's going into be his 10th year, which is not unheard of for offensive linemen to play, 12, 15 years. But he had
Tore his Achilles
towards
this
the
last
coach.
year in Kansas City.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I was trying to look and remember if it was his ACL or his Achilles that he tore. And then, like, yeah, I mean, he was such a good offensive tackle that Indianapolis signed him coming off the Achilles for what was it, 10 million, a 1 year, $10 million contract for him.
Yeah, and a lot of people weren't even expecting him to play this past year, and he got out on the field. Not
Hmm.
his finest work, but the fact that he was able to even play, I think that was a pretty good sign. It's just a matter, can he get even more healthy? And I think maybe that's why he's still sitting as a free agent right now, as teams are wondering, well, hey, you played the,
Hmm.
the whole year on it, and it was kind of dicey. Maybe it's not getting better. And if that's the best he is, they're probably looking at other options now, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I mean, it's unfortunate that he should have retired after winning the Super Bowl. Just go out on top and call it a career. He came back, tore his Achilles. Oh no, he tore his Achilles the year they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, like the week before the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
and he missed that game. But he was a two-time Pro Bowler, and a lot of people gave him some shit for being the number one overall pick. And they were trying to label him as a bust because you might remember, James, the one year with Alex Smith, they were driving the field and they had to score. And I want to say they did score, but he got called for holding and it came back and they ended up
Hmm.
losing the game. And like so many people hated him, man. But when you look at his draft class, it was actually like just one of those weird years where like there weren't a ton of studs, at least at the time that anybody could find. And Andy Reid believed in him, man. And he was good enough. He got another contract. And I think he was one of those guys that, like, in time, he showed, yeah, man, he is definitely starting caliber left tackle. He was a franchise left tackle up until the Achilles thing happened. And, now we'll see what happens. I was telling you a couple weeks ago, I'd like to see the Lions sign him just to be sort of, some depth on that line in case somebody goes down. You got a guy with, like, some good veteran reps at least.
His draft class is better than people give it credit for.
Well, it might be now. I know, like those first few years, it was.
I'm gonna read you some of the undrafted players from that year. C.J. Anderson, A.J. Bouye, Adam Thielen, Jack Doyle, all Pro Bowlers.
Yep.
You had Ryan Jensen as sixth round. Latavius Murray was a sixth round pick. Micah Hyde was a fifth round pick. Kyle Juszczyk was a fourth rounder. Bakhtiari was a fourth rounder. There's some Keenan Allen was a third rounder.
Yeah, Keenan Allen. He's turned out to be a great wide receiver,
Teron,
man.
Teron Armstead was a third rounder. Larry Warford was a third rounder. Uh, I'm gonna go offensive tackles. Shit, Zach Ertz was a second rounder. Cordell Patterson, Hopkins was in that draft.
Yeah, I think the big question was back then when you were the Chiefs and you needed help on the offensive line. It was who were you going to pick over him? And if you weren't going to go offensive lineman, who looked like they were worthy of being a number one pick? And so it was one of those weird things where Andy Reid felt very convicted about drafting
Hmm.
him, and a lot of people questioned it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see like there, I can see questioning it. I think I think there's people just like glancing at it and from my memory going back that far. There were people that probably I would have picked over him, but I mean, it's good pick there. Like, shit.
He's another one of those guys, man. He's had staying power. I mean, you just, I try to look at, who was around him in the first round.
Hmm.
Luke Jokel at offensive line, he didn't really turn out to be that great. Lane Johnson, he had a solid career, but he had some injury stuff. Jonathan Cooper, his time was dicey, and man, he got like pumped up big time. Chance Warmack, same thing. He got a ton of hype, but those two guys were guards. Fluker, his career was up and down. Um, I don't know. So, but no, thank you for pumping the brakes and hitting Eric Fisher. Um, let's go back and do a little Cooper Rush action. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. So Cooper Rush was undrafted back in 2017 by the Dallas Cowboys. And so, there was a gap between, you know, like you see, there was a handful of years where there wasn't really any fresh blood from Central, at least not fresh blood that had an impact and or is still there today. And so, but Cooper Rush, he has been fighting with guys like Ben DiNucci and Will Greer these last few years for the backup role in Dallas. I'll tell you this about the guy. When he was at Central, he was a bomber, dude. He puts a ton of air under the ball. And I love seeing that because not enough quarterbacks, whether it's in college or the NFL, really put good air under the ball. You see a lot of these guys, we talk about it with Stafford all the time. They just try to fucking laser it in there. And, that's good too to have great arm strength. But, you lose some of your advantage as a wide receiver if you don't even get a chance to jump up and fight for the ball. And so, anyhow, Cooper Rush beat out Ben DiNucci. He did get one start last year for the Cowboys. Appeared in 5 games and actually looked pretty good. He had a 105.1 quarterback rating. But obviously he's going to be like that career backup trajectory, at least long as Dak is there, or until maybe somebody gives him a chance to, who the heck knows, maybe be a little bit of like a Davis Mills somewhere. But I think he's more that career backup type role.
Yeah, I agree. He's more of a career backup. You look at it like, yeah, he hasn't only been with Dallas, but he did have a small few-day stint with the New York Giants, 24-day stint there, where he was like signed off waivers and then waived and put on the practice squad for 24 days, and then released from them and re-signed with the Cowboys. I kind of rip him like, oh, who are they going to put out there instead of Dak, Cooper Rush, but for starting one game, playing in 5 games, having a 62% completion percentage, 425 yards, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. That's
respectable, man. That's respectable.
It's very, very respectable. Yeah, he only has 50 attempts, but still, 50 attempts, 400 yards. That's 4.5 yards. 4.5 yards per attempt.
I think he's acquitted himself well for a backup.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Most of the time the backups are upside down with touchdowns and interceptions. Man, he's 3-1. I know it's small sample size, but good for him, man. Okay, so then my next guy here, James, I've got tight end Tyler Conklin. He was drafted in the 5th round back in 2018 by the Minnesota Vikings, pick number 157 overall. When he came out of Central, he was basically like all receiver at tight end. And it has taken a few years for him to develop his skills as a blocker. But looking back just a few years ago, Minnesota liked him enough that they were comfortable letting Kyle Rudolph walk. And that was with, what was the other guy? They had Irv Smith, who was like always injured. They liked Conklin, man. I heard a lot of good stuff. Cousins had good rapport with him. And then this past year, he had a stretch as a pretty legit starting tight end for Minnesota. 593 reception yards. In the offseason now, they let him go. He signed with the Jets, which is kind of a bummer because he's going to be their tight end too, behind CJ Uzoma, who the Jets also signed. But I think it depends on what the game script is. There's a chance maybe it's like a 1A, a 1B situation because Conklin, really good receiving tight end. But Uzoma's not bad at catching the ball either. So, we'll see how it plays out, I guess.
So I was looking at it because with Conklin and Uzoma, do you know actually Conklin is actually utilized more in Minnesota than Uzoma was in Cincinnati?
Yeah, see, I guess
year?
I was wondering how that was because didn't Uzoma get hurt for a while?
That's what I was trying to figure out because like the list I had, and I wanted to go back to another list. So no, because Uzoma played in 16 games, Conklin played in 17 games.
Okay.
So Uzoma had last season.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking the year before, but Uzoma's he had some good chemistry with Burrow, which was a surprise they let him go too.
Yeah, it was the year before. So
Okay.
he had about Uzoma had about 3 catches per game, and Conklin had about 4 catches per game
Yeah. I mean,
last year.
four a game as a tight end, man. You're getting it done.
Yeah, so I
I mean,
think
you're not Gronk level, but who is?
actually if I were to go through it, yeah, Uzoma's played in 79 games, Conklin's played in 64 games. They have about the same average per game. Actually, Conklin's more. Conklin has 9.9 yards per game receiving, where Uzoma has 9.8.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to look more at recent because the trajectory for Conklin has been more recent, if that makes sense. You know?
Yeah, so last 2020, um, you have to discount Uzoma's numbers because he only played in 2 games.
Yeah.
But Conklin had 10.2 yards per game in 2020, 9.7 in 2021. It was actually his rookie season where he averaged the most per game.
But
He
on a
had
smaller sample.
No, he played in 16 games his rookie season. He had
I'm talking on a smaller amount of receptions.
Yeah, but he still had 15 and a half yards per game.
Yeah. No. Oh, yeah. No. 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 Hey, man. I'm not trying to discount the guy. I'm just,
Oh
I'm
no,
saying that 15
15 and a half yards per reception.
I,
That's my bad. That's
yeah,
not yards per game.
yeah. I guess what I'm saying is that he got more targets as his career's gone on. It's not like he came out of the gate
Hmm.
getting a lot of looks. It's really mostly this past year where he was like, "Hey, I can do this. I can carry this load."
Yeah, and I mean he has like a 70-ish% um, reception rate.
Yeah,
And
I like the dude a
last
lot,
year.
man. I like him a lot.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to
Obviously, I
say
like him a lot.
here
Yeah.
is I think Conklin's going to be the number one with the Jets, not Uzoma.
Okay. And hey, I hope he wins that job. I mean, it'd be cool. It'd be good. And then they just need Wilson to be a decent quarterback to make it worth it. Okay, so then my next guy here, James, we're going to 2019. We got cornerback Sean Murphy Bunting, one of my favorite players from Central. He was drafted in the second round by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, pick number 39 overall. He is easily the top dog of the CMU players that are active right now. And I say that because we know Fisher's sitting in free agency. Um, During the Buccaneers Super Bowl run, he had a pick in 3 straight playoff games leading up to the Super Bowl. And then in the Super Bowl itself, he had a clutch pass defense. Last year was rocky. He had a fair amount of injuries. But I'm hearing they're pumped for him to be coming back this year. And they think he's healthy. He's ready to roll. Technically, on the depth chart, he's their CB2, and he also plays a little bit of nickel if they need him there. But the dude has developed nicely as a cornerback in this league, man.
Yeah, so during the Super Bowl run for Tampa Bay, he kind of came out of nowhere. He was having an oh-hum season and just lit it up in the fucking playoffs, which, I mean, that's what you need. In 2019, he had in 16 games in the regular season, he had 3 total interceptions. Jump forward to the playoffs, and he
Yeah,
had
doubled it up.
he had freaking 3 interceptions in 3 straight games.
Not too shabby, man. Getting hot when you need them.
So actually those yeah, that's right. Sorry, a second guessing it.
No, you're all
Um,
good.
and then last year he had the season. He still played in the playoff game after I'm sorry, it was 2020. My eyes were screwed up.
You're fine.
So
You're totally fine.
in 2020 he had 1 interception, and then in the playoffs he fucking had three in 3 games or whatever it was.
Gotcha.
Three interceptions in the playoffs. Yeah. So he tripled his for his interception rate in the playoffs.
Yeah, but he's young. He's I think he's been developing nicely, and I think the Tampa Bay secondary in general is on the younger side with a lot of potential. And they got Antoine Winfield Jr. He's been looking good. They just signed who was their CB1? They just gave him a contract. It was looking like he was going to be out, but with Brady coming
Oh,
back, they signed the guy. What was it, Carlton Davis maybe? Um,
yeah, I think that sounds right.
but no, I mean I like that team, man. I think that's cool. Um, the next guy from Central is another cornerback, not doing as hot, but we'll talk about him. It's Xavier Crawford. He was also from the 2019 draft class, picked in the sixth round by Houston, pick number 195 overall. He has bounced between Houston, Miami, and Chicago. They're projecting him to be a third string nickelback for the Jaguars this year. He's been mostly special teams thus far, and he's one of these guys where, hey man, fingers crossed he hangs onto a spot because I think he's on the fringe of getting bounced out, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't have much on him. Like, I kind of a hum career where he just bounces around. He's hanging on for special teams, but eventually, you're right. He's gonna probably get bounced.
Yeah, you got to be able to do a little bit more than just special teams, you know. Like after a couple of years of that, they'll find somebody younger to take the beating or whatever. And but I'm hoping something works out for the guy. You know, maybe he gets a little bit better working that secondary and he can latch on as a backup somewhere. But it's all good, man. Hey, we all try, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But he made it to the NFL, so that's a success on its own. And he was drafted, so good for him. The next guy I got is running back Jonathan Ward, undrafted free agent signing by the Cardinals in 2020. He's listed as their fifth string running back going into this year, but I think he's actually higher than that on the depth chart because he's played in 27 games in 2 years. He doesn't have a lot of stats in those games, not a lot of carries, not a lot of receptions. But the fact that they keep getting him on the field, I think, shows that they trust him at least to some degree, whether it's pass blocking or whatever. Um, you know, but it's a running back typically. They got a short shelf life. Um, and then hey, they let Edmonds go this past year. They still got James Conner, who's injury prone. I think there's some opportunity there for Ward. I'm not saying he's going to light the world on fire, but I think he's going to be securely in their running back depth for the season at least.
So, I tried to find him on the Cardinals depth chart.
Oh, don't tell me he's not on it right now.
He's not even listed.
What? What?
He's not. He's not even listed. Yeah, he's on the Cardinals, but he's not even fucking listed.
No, I'm not worried about that. He'll be on the team. Let me see if I can find their depth chart. He's going to be fine. James Conner, we know, is the one. That's right. They brought in Darrell Williams. He'll be the two. They got Eno Benjamin. Yeah, maybe he is the four on that team. I think he's probably fighting with Eno Benjamin, but probably the number four.
Yeah. So I mean,
So he's slipping.
he's slipping hard. Like I mean,
Okay.
not to knock him. Like it's just like
No,
when
we got to call it. We got to call spade a spade, man.
I was looking for it and looking for it, and I was like, shit, he's not even on the depth chart anymore.
Yeah, I think I fixated on that 27 games. That's a lot in 2 years for a guy that's undrafted, but he's got almost no stats, and so it's like they're getting him out there, but it's just for little bits and pieces here and there. So,
Yeah.
but that's okay. Let's James, let's go to this year. We got a handful of guys that are worth talking about this year. Um, the 2022 NFL Draft. The first guy picked was offensive guard Luke Goedeke. He was picked in the second round by the Buccaneers. pick number 57 overall. I'm pumped up for this guy. I think he landed in a perfect spot. He played right tackle at Central, but projects better as a guard in the NFL. With some of the changes that the Bucks had this year in the offseason, it looks like he's going to get a chance to start at guard immediately. And I think with Brady still being there, I like it, dude. I think that Brady's going to help whip him into shape. I think physically the talent's there. This could be one of those guys that comes out of the gate and has like a really rock solid rookie year for a guard.
Yeah, so going into the draft, I thought Gadecki would be a first round pick. I think he'll be once he cracks the starting lineup, which we'll see if he can do that this year. Once he cracks the starting lineup, he'll be a mainstay on that offensive line. Maybe you have Shaq Mason and Tristan Wirfs. You have put Gadecki on the left guard. I mean, that's Ryan Jensen. I mean, that's a solid 4 out of your 5 offensive linemen.
Yeah, and so yeah, I mean Central they had 2 studs on the offensive line this year that got drafted, and so the next one is offensive tackle Bernard Raymond. He was picked in the 3rd round by the Colts, pick number 77 overall. And going into the draft, a lot of the analysts actually had these guys flipped. They thought Raymond was going to go first, and then Gadecki would go a round or 2 later. I think that the teams, they got the better evaluation on these guys. They know better. But, with Raymond, some of it is the risk of he is a transfer. I mean, he's, like a foreign exchange student or whatever. He's from Austria. He came to Central as a tight end, converted to left tackle, gained a ton of weight to fit that position, had tremendous success at Central. And, his trajectory's been impressive, but he's only been in the game for a few years, which I think teams felt was a little bit risky. The Colts themselves, they went out and signed a guy to have a veteran presence to potentially start at left tackle until they feel like Raymond's ready to move into that role. But he is a natural left tackle. I don't know if they're going to move him somewhere else on that line. And James, I don't know, man. Everything I've read on this guy, I get the feeling he's going to be a franchise left tackle. It just may not be starting this year or until later in the year.
Yeah, and when the Colts drafted him, I thought that was my moment where I was like, oh shit, that means Eric Fisher's probably not going to be signed.
Yep, yeah, Central guy replacing a Central guy, unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, so that was my reaction to that. I think he's solid. You're right. There are those slight concerns there that he probably can overcome. It's just we have to see him do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, hey, I guess you look at it and you say he was good enough to beat out Gadecki at Central. And Gadecki went in the 2nd round. So, he's pretty darn good, man. All right, keeping it moving here. The next guy I got, James, is defensive end Troy Hairston. He was undrafted, signed by Houston. He's projected to just be later on that depth chart. Right now, they got him as a 5th-string defensive end. Houston kind of thin at defensive end ever since J.J. Watt left, pretty much. And so, there's a little bit of an outside chance that maybe this guy latches on for a little while. If he can do a few things, he's going to have to make some bucks at special teams and whatever they ask him to do. But to be honest, I really, I don't know as much about him as the other guys and have like any kind of inside skinny to say definitively he's going to make that roster. A lot of times these undrafted guys, they don't make the roster, unfortunately.
All right. So I tried to do a dive into him, and I came up blank.
Okay.
I came up completely blank. There's no projected draft analysis. There's nothing on him.
And he's a bit small for a defensive end, man. He's 5'11". That's a little bit short. 245, It's really more of like linebacker size, to be honest, like an inside linebacker. But, they got him at defensive end. I'm seeing special teams at best.
Yeah, if that.
And maybe I don't know. Maybe they're looking at him as an outside linebacker, and he just got drafted or got signed as a defensive end. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those situations, like however their scheme works. But all right, the last guy I got, James. He's not technically the last guy I got, but he's the last guy in this category. Is wide receiver Khalil. Uh, Holy cow! I just is
Khalil
what?
Pimpleton.
Thank you, wide receiver Khalil Pimpleton. I just messed up my page here. And man, he was undrafted, picked up by the Lions. He is right now projected to be our four-string slot wide receiver, which is very deceiving. Um, he's just a skinny little burner kind of guy, and uh, some of the people that I've read that are talking about him, they actually feel pretty good that he's going to make that squad given the issues at wide receiver. We
Hmm.
don't really have a true number one, at least not until Jameson Williams gets himself established. But, Shark, and then you got Amon-Ra St. Brown. After that, you almost have a collection of number fours, is what it is. And I'm of the opinion, maybe I'm wrong. I'm of the opinion that our collection of fours are going to beat this guy out, and he'll end up on the practice squad. And hopefully he stays on the practice squad and maybe gets time to develop and maybe gets a look next year or whatever else the case may be. But, you're talking like Quintez Cephas and guys like that have actually shown some potential are sitting in that like wide receiver four collection for the Lions. I just don't see how he's going to beat those guys out, unfortunately.
So when I looked at him, I think they they signed him to be a kick returner.
Yeah, he's got some potential there. Yep. I'm
I think
glad you
I think
mentioned that.
I think that's where he has his potential is as a returner, um, especially the more at the beginning of the season with Jamison Williams out, you don't want Khalif Raymond or St. Brown doing kick punt returns, or yeah, whoever the hell the kick returner is. I'm not even gonna try to
Yeah.
pronounce his name. So you put him in there as either a punt returner or kick returner. I think he has some upside there, if that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And yeah, I forgot about the special teams aspect with him returning kicks and punts. So that's good to point out. Um, the last guy I had on my list, James, which for years I would say we've lived a little bit vicariously through him, was defensive end J.J. Watt. Not drafted out of Central Michigan
I
because
forgot about that.
he transferred from Central Michigan to Wisconsin. This was a classic Brian Kelly fuck up for Central Michigan. The old Notre Dame Brian Kelly, the guy that just like shit on them on his way out the door. But J.J. Watt was at Central. He was a tight end. Brian Kelly wanted him to convert to offensive line. He said no. Brian Kelly was apparently a dick about it, and so J.J. Watt said, "Forget you," transferred to Wisconsin, and in the transfer, whatever interaction he had with that coaching staff, they told him, "Hey, man, you'd be perfect on the defensive line." He converted, and the rest is history. So, F you, Brian Kelly, and I'll take a little bit of claim to J.J. Watt being a Chippewa, even though he got drafted out of Wisconsin.
All right,
I'm looking at you like,
so
what's James going to say here?
so a little pushback on it being Brian Kelly because it wasn't Brian Kelly.
Mm,
It
I'm
wasn't
almost
Brian Kelly.
positive it's got to be the
No,
timing of.
Brian Kelly was the coach, but it wasn't Brian Kelly. I'm going to
Okay.
read you. Watt's coaches, led by Butch Jones, suggested that he move to offensive tackle.
And Butch Jones was after Brian Kelly?
Butch Jones took over for Brian Kelly because you got to
Yeah.
remember. So Brian Kelly left Fresno State, went to Central.
Or
Butch Jones got
Grand Valley State. Yeah, yeah.
Grand Valley State. Sorry, Ferris State, not Grand Valley State.
Okay.
Whatever. No, that's
No.
where he played. No, yeah, I was right. So went to no Ferris State. Wait a
No,
minute.
he was Grand Valley State, man. He won a couple championships with them.
Okay, then. And so my memory's a little bit off on it then, because like I thought Butch Jones followed Brian Kelly to Central from. Yeah, it.
Fire Up Chips exclusive. J.J. Watt sets record straight. I don't know. Oh, all right. So this one's saying that Watt decommitted when Brian Kelly left for Cincinnati. So yeah, maybe it was Butch Jones tried switching him.
Yeah, so he left for Cincinnati after the 2006 season, and then.
Oh boy, I'm gonna have to change my tune if this is all legit because I always heard it differently.
So he was he played. Brian Kelly was not at Central Michigan while J.J. Watt was there. Because J.J. Watt played at Central tight end his freshman year, 2007. Brian Kelly was already coach at Cincinnati in 2007.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to dig deeper in this, James. I like this article. J.J. Watt still has a CMU decal on his car to this day out of respect for CMU. Holy cow!
Hilarious.
They're showing a picture of him, man. He looked so skinny when he was on Central.
Yeah.
I was asked to move to offensive tackle.
By who? Oh, that's right, Butch Jones.
And no, I was never approached to play defensive end by CMU. Hey, maybe it was Butch Jones. And it was the decommitment that caused him to transfer. Oh, man, I'm going to have to keep looking at it, James.
Yeah,
I still
so
think Brian Kelly's a douchebag.
I still think Brian Kelly's a douchebag, but
Yeah.
he played in 2007, Butch his
Yeah,
freshman year.
this is saying, this is talking about his interactions with Butch Jones.
2007, his freshman year, Butch Jones was the head coach for Central Michigan.
I don't know, man. I'm going to have to keep digging into it, but that's all right.
He was the head coach for Central from 2007 to 2009.
Yep.
Okay, so I partially was remembering correctly. So Brian Kelly left Grand Valley, went to Central.
Yep.
His assistant coach became interim coach at Grand Valley. Lost the job at Grand Valley. Didn't get the job over Butch Jones. Butch Jones got the job over him. Then that assistant coach followed Brian Kelly to Central Michigan. Brian Kelly left Central Michigan, went to Cincinnati. The assistant coach didn't get the job. Butch Jones got the job. Assistant coach went to Cincinnati and I forget the assistant coach's name. Went to Cincinnati with Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly left Cincinnati to go to Notre Dame. Butch Jones got the job over that assistant coach again at Cincinnati.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah, I actually liked Butch Jones, but either way, now I'm not liking him as much. But Brian Kelly still a shitbag. Has a ton of dirt going on with him. I guess I'll have to correct my tune as it relates to J.J. Watt, but still, unfortunately, a missed opportunity for the Chippewas, man.
And the coach's name, it was Jeff Quinn.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so James, were there any other guys that I missed here from the Central Michigan club, so to speak?
Honestly, not really. Like there's some, depends on how far back you want to dive, that like
these are the notable ones. Yeah,
never really made an impact.
yeah. No, I think we covered it pretty well, man. And hopefully more will keep jumping in the league, and we can update this list. And who knows? Maybe Antonio Brown will come back. Jalil Addae gets signed by somebody. Eric Fisher gets signed by somebody. We'll have a nice little crew there in the league, man. But okay, so switching it over, talking about our question of the week, James. Since we're talking Central Michigan, I wanted to just ask this question. And, we know we had some studs with Staley and Antonio Brown where they rocked out like a ton of Pro Bowls and all that kind of shit. Out of the current group of CMU players in the league, do you see any of these guys making the Pro Bowl within the next 3 years? And, if so, I guess just talk a little bit about it. Or if it's no, then obviously you don't have to say anything about it. And I'll give you a minute to think about it because I didn't give you this question ahead of time. But
the answer is yes. Sean Murphy-Bunting. That's the only one that has a shot at it.
Okay, well, I was going to say I think Murphy-Bunting could get it potentially this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think Goodecki could get Pro Bowl this year or next year. I think he could be an impact guard right off the bat.
I think he has a chance at it, but I think he's going to need a number of years rotating in to make that impact.
And then I was going to say Raymond maybe within the next 3, but we got to see what happens this year and how much time he gets on the field. But I think Murphy-Bunting, yeah, we agree he's the top guy. It'd be nice to see Conklin get it, but I just think some of his stats are going to be hindered with Uzoma, playing tight end with the Jets too. So
yeah, that and Wilson, I'm unsure about. So
yeah, if he can actually pump out the passing yards, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, that's cool. So yeah, for anybody who's watching, hit us up, answer our question of the week, especially if you're a Central Michigan fan or Chippewa, former Chippewa alumni, active Chippewa, whatever. Or frick, maybe if you're Antonio Brown and you're hearing this shit, hit us up, man. We want to hear from you guys. And James, like always, dude, great show. Hopefully we get some likes here from people if you're watching, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Otherwise, James, I'll talk to you this weekend. We'll make sure we're on the same page for our topic for next week, man.
All right, sounds good.
All right, dude. See ya.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.